The Toxic Avenger is finally nearly here. Macon Blair's new take on the cult classic superhero movie starring Peter Dinklage, Jacob Tremblay, Taylor Page, with Elijah Wood and Kevin Bacon hits theaters August 29th. That's right, Kevin frickin' Bacon. See the long-awaited and totally unrated action comedy that has a 92% Rotten Tomatoes score exclusively in theaters this Labor Day weekend. Get tickets now at toxicavenger.com/podcast. Hey everyone, Shelby here to ask for your help to make Bloody FM even better. If you have a moment, please take our listener survey so we can learn what you like, what you don't like, and what else you're listening to. You can find the survey at bit.ly/bloodysurvey. It takes less than 5 minutes and it's really easy because, hey, you're just telling us about yourself. So if you've got a couple minutes, please head to bit.ly/bloodysurvey and click the link. It'll really help make Bloody FM and all our shows better. One last time, that's bit.ly/bloodysurvey. Thank you so much.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking swans and ants. We're talking corsets and cake. And we're talking a movie that film critic Stephen J. Snyder calls a ghost story without the ghosts, a puzzle without a solution, and a story of sexual repression without the sex. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking a lot of pan flutes.
Oh my god, Zamfir, Trace. This probably means nothing to you, but this is like a staple of like suburban bullshittery.
It means nothing to me. I don't know what you just said.
So Zamfir is the artist renowned for basically making popular the pan flute, which is all over this fucking movie, but like this was a staple. Like you could go into suburban white people's houses in like the 80s, early 90s, and they would have like a cassette or a CD of Zamfir.
That is so... My only... You're going to laugh and just be like, of course, Trace. But like my only connection to pan flute is a 2-part South Park episode that is all about pan flutes.
Sure. Here's the thing, you got to get your pop culture IQ from somewhere, and South Park and Simpsons are basic barometer tests. Like, they will have covered pretty much everything in human existence.
Apparently so. But everyone, yes, we are discussing Peter Weir's 1975 mystery, Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yes, 50 years of this movie, Trace.
50 years. This was a first-time watch for me, although, as I think I said in the outro last week, I have seen the 2018 miniseries starring Natalie Dormer.
And I have not, but just even rewatching this made me curious to go and check out what that looks like in a longer form.
Oh, yeah, because I'll just come out and say it. I liked this movie, and I respect a lot of... we'll talk about all the things this movie is doing very well and why it's so like well regarded, but like I definitely struggled to pay attention to this movie.
Yeah, it's very dreamy, it's slow. I think also if you do approach this, as you said, a mystery, that can be a little bit unsatisfying because it doesn't follow the conventions. It doesn't have a very satisfying payoff in that regard. And I honestly think the transition away from the girls after they disappear and into Michael is a little snoozy.
I would fully agree. And honestly, I can't even tell you if I preferred the miniseries because, I don't really remember much of it. I don't think it needed to be stretched out to 8 hours, but I remember really liking Natalie Dormer, but it's really bizarre because she plays Mrs. Appleyard in that miniseries.
What? Oh my god, that's not what you... I thought you were going to say she plays Miranda.
No. Funnily enough, Miranda, I think, is Lily Sullivan, the one from Evil Dead Rise, but
okay.
Irma was Samara Weaving.
Okay, yes. And honestly, even just hearing you say the names, I'm like, oh, that is a good cast.
It's a really good cast. And also, I mean, you get to see Natalie Dormer kind of be this bitchy role. But
sure.
But yeah, everyone, if you're curious, if you liked this, go check it out, because I don't remember not liking it.
Wow. Ringing endorsement, put it on the poster.
Yeah, but so you had seen this before, though, Joe.
Oh, I've seen this a couple times, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this was a film school watch. It was very much, an example of national cinema. It was an example of like a female-dominated storyline, but specifically told through a lot of, dream-like imagery and so on. So yeah, it was an interesting watch, but I can say a lot of people do struggle with the kind of slowness of this movie.
It is very slow. And I can understand if you were expecting the mystery to be resolved, that it would also that kind of just piles on to that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting, I knew going in that they were not going to solve this mystery. And so I was kind of like, cool, I'm just going to ride along the wave of Picnic at Hanging Rock. And
right.
There are definitely parts that I really, really find, hypnotic. Like I did find myself almost in a trance-like state watching this, but then
so you're like the girls in the movie.
Very much so. But then there were times when I would snap out of it when I was like, oh right, do I care about what's happening here? You can tell this is a book first.
Okay, I'm interested to hear you elaborate on that.
I guess I just feel like, okay, do you remember that Oz Perkins movie, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House?
Of course I do. Very contentious. I quite liked it.
I did too. But the way I describe it is it feels like just a straight adaptation of a book. Like it feels like you're reading classic literature, brought to life. And it's very kind of slow and some might say uneventful. And I feel the same way about this, to where I feel like I might appreciate or like this movie more if I read the book.
Okay, I can get behind the final part of that statement. I just feel like anybody who has actually studied English literature is going to take umbrance with you saying, oh, well, it's slow. It's like reading a classical novel.
No. I'm not saying reading a classical novel is slow, but I'm saying that there's a difference when you're reading it and then when you're having to watch it. Okay. I don't know how else to explain that, actually. So maybe that's a wash.
You know what? I feel like we can unpack that as we go, because you can probably, in hindsight, think about what scenes kind of grabbed you and why, and then what scenes you were like, I don't know, maybe this just works better if you're reading it and you're able to imagine it.
Maybe entirely possible. But yeah, so why don't we just jump into this? Because I had a Criterion disc to pour through.
Yes. I mean, shocking no one that this movie got a Criterion release.
Well, exactly. The funny thing is, Joe, I really hadn't heard of this story until the announcement of that miniseries was made. And so, not because I was like, what is that? If I haven't heard of it, it's not a big deal. But
well, it's a very Australian movie.
And kind of seminal. Both the book and the film are kind of hallmarks of Australian art. So, yes, Picnic at Hanging Rock, based on Joan Lindsay's 1967 novel of the same name, and wouldn't you know it, Hanging Rock is a real place located in the Australian state of Victoria, that is in southern Australia. Although the events depicted in the novel are entirely fictional, much like the film, it is framed as though it were a true story. And Lindsay had done little to dispel the myth that the story is based on truth. So, in many interviews, she wouldn't say no, but she refused to confirm whether it was entirely fiction, or hinted that parts of the book were fictitious and that others were not. The book also apparently opens with this kind of preamble of sorts that says, whether the story is true or not, the characters involved are long since dead, so it hardly seems to matter.
Wow. I'm not going to lie. This seems like a great hook to goose the sales of said novel.
She is a monstrous troll, and I love it.
Basically, yes. The original troll from Australia.
From Australia. Born in 1896, so she was really holding on to that shit.
Oh, good for her.
Because this, whether it's true or not, has kind of been a big talking point about the novel and about the film for decades, the narrative itself of these girls going missing has become a part of Australia's national folklore as a result.
Right. Yeah. I did a little bit of digging. Stop me if I'm going to, walk all over your production notes. But there are still people who think that this is true, and they organize search parties at Hanging Rock to go look for these girls. And you're like, folks, it's fiction. That is wild.
Honestly, it reminds me, and these are not comparable films in terms of their subject matter, but in terms of how people think it's true. It feels
Blair Witch.
I was thinking the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, you know what? Both applicable.
Both apply, yeah, absolutely. But actually Blair Witch is probably better because that is more of a folk horror tale.
Yeah, and just the way that the film has this legacy both as a kind of entertainment piece, but then also something that got stuck in people's consciousness. And there are some people where I just don't think you'll ever be able to convince them, oh no, this is fake.
That's so weird.
I know, right? But then also think of how we interrogate or don't the internet nowadays. So maybe it's easier to dupe people than we think.
Yep. Valid point. Touche. The way the book was written, though, was kind of bizarre because Lindsay claimed to have written it over 2 weeks after having successive dreams over multiple nights of the events in the novel. So, like, she would dream them and then write. And then I guess go to bed the next night, dream more of the story, and then write. That seems not possible, but I'm not her, so...
I don't know. I think it makes sense to me. I would just be very alarmed if I was getting to the end of the novel and being like, what if I don't dream up a resolution? How does this motherfucker end?
You gotta use your brain. But the location of Hanging Rock was something that had stuck with Lindsay ever since she first saw it when she was 3 years old. So it obsessed her. She used to lie awake at night thinking of it very, very clearly. So maybe that's why she was dreaming a lot about it.
Entirely possible. And let's face it, I mean, we said, oh, this is a benchmark of Australian cinema and all these other things. There's a bunch of Australian films that really capitalize on the national geography. Like I'm thinking of Wolf Creek and the meteor strike that kind of lends, well, not just the film's title, but also like a good first part of that movie. So, I mean, setting something around a natural geographical point that has an air of mystery, wonder, connected to the culture and so on, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And these rocks are intimidating, but it may also just be because of the score and sound design that feel so intimidating.
Oh, it definitely contributes, yeah.
Yeah. But when it came time to adapt the novel into a film, it was actually television personality Patricia Lovell who read the book and wanted to make a film out of it. Now, Patricia Lovell probably doesn't mean anything to us, or maybe you actually, since you have Australia in your genes somewhere, but but she was a frequent broadcaster in children's programming in the 50s and 60s, as well as playing the role of Miss Pat in the long-running children's program Mr. Squiggle.
Okay. No, that's all new to me.
All right. Well, if there's any Australians out there, let me know.
There we go.
But she optioned the film rights in 1973, paying $100 for, this is weird, 3 months of the rights.
Oh, I guess she really believed that we could get that film made quick.
So she took the novel to Peter Weir, whom she had met while working as an interviewer on Sydney Today. And he read it, was gripped by it. And the fact that it was an unsolved mystery, and like he was just taken by the novel's atmosphere, but mostly the sense of unease that it created. And with the film, that's kind of what I latch onto the most. Like, this film does make you feel very uneasy, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint why.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you're right. It is in part because of the technical aspects of it, as well as the way that we're like incorporating this kind of true-ish ghost story.
Exactly. But in his words, like, the novel answered enough questions to satisfy and posed enough questions to intrigue.
Sounds great. Sounds like a great premise to work with for a film.
Absolutely. But first, to adapt the book, they had to make it past the gatekeeper, who was, of course, Joan Lindsay herself. So
okay.
She had to approve the director and the production team, as well as the screenwriter. So Weir went out to meet her for lunch and basically auditioned for her. The conversation went well, but after lunch they had a coffee, and before this meeting, Weir was told, like, hey, like, have fun with her, like, you know, talk about whatever the fuck you want, but do not ask her whether or not the story is true.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And he was like, you know, I've been told not to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you, is this story true?
Dude, rookie mistake.
Her reply is, young man, I hope you do not ask me that question again. So then he asked her, well, do you think it's wide open what happened to these girls? Like, did they fall down a hole? Were they abducted by aliens? And her reply was, any of the above.
Sure. That's part of the allure of the tale, is you can fill in the gap however you like.
Well, but you know, there was an excise final chapter that resolved everything in this book, right?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the film.
Okay.
But with that, they had her approval, and she also, again, had approval over who did the adaptation. So she gave it to Cliff Green, whose first draft, Lovell says, was excellent. I don't know why she gave it to Cliff Green, because he was also, like, he didn't really have a lot of credits to his name, but maybe she just knew him through the grapevine.
Possibly, yeah.
But Lovell, who was great at finding creative things to put money towards, like a book, didn't know the ropes of the industry. So Weir brought in Hal and Jim McElroy, who had produced his last film, the 1974 horror comedy The Cars That Ate Paris, which, by the way, want to cover that. I don't know what that is, but that title, yeah.
Maybe watch it before we promise we'll cover it.
If anyone's seen it, let us know. But the screenplay at this point had been through 2 to 3 drafts by the time the McElroys became involved. And after some discussion and further script work, they got it in a good enough place to seek out financing.
Okay.
But at the time, the Australian film industry was in a bit of a rebirth, the Australian New Wave. So everyone, I'm not going to go over this again, but please go see our previous episode on Wake and Fright, where we do discuss this kind of wave of film from coming out of Australia, the Ozploitation thing.
Yeah, and we're not suggesting that this film is an Ozploitation film, but obviously the industry was undergoing some changes in how it approached filmmaking, film funding, film production, and so on. But it is fascinating to me, Trace. The films that we have covered from Australia on the podcast always seem to be in the 70s or in the aughts.
I was
like
going to
the
say
2010s and so on.
Yeah, because Loved Ones was 2008. And,
yeah.
But I think a film like this and the success of it paved the way for the Ozploitation epidemic. Epidemic? Yeah, sure, why not?
Sure. It's films that are artsy but also have slight genre intrigue to them, right?
Right. But at this time, the only thing that was working were broad comedies. And so all of a sudden, this period piece comes around, and that wasn't what people were wanting to finance. And apparently, the idea of making a film or adapting a film from a book was very foreign to Australians in the early 70s. This was viewed as something for the quote-unquote big-timers overseas, like the Americans.
Oh, Australia. As a Canadian, I see you, this inferiority complex, the like, no, we're not going to be Hollywood.
Well, and it's like, we Australians write our own things. We don't adapt things, even if we're adapting an Australian work.
Sure. Yeah, that's an American practice.
Apparently. But Weir and Lovell were kind of pioneers in this way, especially since the Australian film industry wasn't really much of anything and was often overlooked by those so-called big-timers. Like, Australian films weren't known by Americans in the early 70s.
Yeah.
So when they presented this to financiers, they kept being told that the issue with the film was that it was a mystery. And I'm guessing they meant unsolved mystery.
I mean, maybe. We talked a little bit about how there was a reticence to try to engage with more conventional, lowbrow kind of art. Like,
well, and if everything that's coming out of Australia is a broad comedy, it's like, why are you dipping your toes into genre? Like, bleh.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the McElroys had the idea to convince people that it was real, because then they wouldn't be obligated to solve the mystery by the time the credits rolled. But
sure,
they couldn't actually say it was real since they didn't know if it was or not, which is where they got the idea to include the text that opens the film. So their defense is, well, we never said it was fact. We just presented it as fact.
Sure, which is what every documentarian has been doing since time immemorial, right? It's like, oh, it's inspired by, it's based on, but we never said it was true.
Yeah, exactly that. Which I think that's kind of fun and playful. I can see how it might frustrate some viewers.
Yeah, or apparently just full on make them believe, because
I guess though, like, my instinct whenever I see like something's based on a true story, either before or after I go see or read this thing, I'm going to be looking up the real events. And so I don't know, for me, like, that's kind of on me to do that, but some people I guess don't like to do that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so Gil Brimley, who was running the South Shine Film Corporation at the time, was very keen to get in on a Peter Weir movie, as long as they shot it in South Australia.
Sure.
Luckily, they found Martindale Hall, because the issue was the way the mansion is described in the book, it's in Australia, but it's also, like, very British. Like, the architecture of it is a very British thing. And
yes,
they found this place called Martindale Hall, which still exists, by the way. I went to the website today, and it has its own weird history in that it looked just like a British mansion sitting in the heart of South Australia. And the reason is because this mansion, which was completed in 1879, was created by a man named Mr. Edmund Bowman, who was in love with like this English woman over in the UK. He was like, hey, I love you. Like, come live in Australia with me. And she was like, no. And he goes, well, what if I do this? What if I build a replica of your mansion in the UK and it's here? That way it still feels like home. And she was like, maybe. I don't know. Try. Let's see.
Oh boy, that is desperate measures. Like if somebody is offering to build you a castle to woo you and you're still not getting an enthusiastic yes, walk away.
Well, so he does build this, and wouldn't you know, she doesn't come. And he eventually loses Martindale Hall in a gambling game.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You know what? Make a movie of that.
Honestly, I kind of want to see it.
It's an entertaining story. It does sound like a weird celebrity. Somebody fully started dating, some famous celebrity fully started dating some random woman, quite a bit younger than him, bought this giant McMansion, and then she fully cheated on him and left him. And it was very early on. And you're just well, you kind of deserved it.
Or the woman was famous and the man was a peasant, a plebe. He's like, I'll build this for you. Please come. But yeah, tragic romance. I really want to hear that story. But if you want to know more about that, go to the Martindale Hall website because it's all over the thing.
There you go.
Casting was pretty standard, though I should point out that Academy Award-nominated actress Vivian Merchant, she was nominated for Alfie, by the way, was originally cast as Mrs. Appleyard, but she became ill at the last minute and withdrew, which, again, I feel like we've talked about that a lot. We talked about that with Phenomenon, Orson Welles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a danger when you're going after slightly older actors because the reality is that their health is subject to go a little up and down.
Yeah, so Weir found another Academy Award nominated actress, Rachel Roberts. She was nominated for The Sporting Life. She had been on a short list, but he saw her in Murder on the Orient Express and loved her performance in it. So she had to be ready in 2 weeks, and she was. But I gotta say, her and a bunch of people in her circle at the same time, they suffered from immense depression, often dying from alcoholism.
Oh, dark. Okay.
I actually believe that Roberts died by suicide as well.
Oof.
Yeah. The schoolgirls were cast both in New South Wales and Victoria in South Australia, and they saw many, many girls, but Weir was less interested in their acting ability and more in their look, because what he was looking for was a feeling of period in the girls. They couldn't look like they were from 1975. They had to look like they would live in 1900.
I mean, sure, but that's also why you have hair and makeup.
I guess it's their innate facial features, but
yeah, and there is something ethereal about a lot of these girls. They embody the kind of dreamlike imagery that we're going to be talking about from the technical side. So I do get it. You want people who can embody the character. So yeah, you can put them through hair and makeup, but it doesn't have to be a heavy lift.
Well, but because of this, several of the schoolgirls' voices were dubbed in secret by professional voice actors, and I do not have a list of which ones because they're not credited either.
Interesting. I never would have guessed, and usually I'm pretty good at spotting a dub and a wig, so...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it probably helps that they're speaking the same language, it's not a foreign one switching over, but still, I mean,
guess.
Bad ADR. Well, I guess that's the thing, it's good ADR.
Yes, yeah, it's well done dubbing.
Filming began in February of 1975, with principal photography taking 6 weeks. And I do think the cinematography is one of the most striking aspects of the film. So, cinematographer Russell Boyd was strongly influenced by the work of the Heidelberg School of Australian Impressionists. So many shots are directly influenced by or just kind of aping famous impressionist paintings from Australia.
Okay, yeah, there's one moment where we can see most of the girls lounging around at the picnic, and I paused it and just said, you could put a frame on this, and this is a full-on painting.
Right, yeah, it reminds me, because I don't know a lot of paintings, but it reminds me of that, the Ophelia's Death in Hamlet painting, where she's just kind of lying in the water, just kind of this waifish woman in, lied out in a field, or I guess in her case in a water that's surrounded by greenery, but still.
Yeah, beautiful, evocative.
But to create the ethereal, dreamy look of many scenes, he did this by placing a bridal veil or a fabric of various thickness over his camera lens.
And that's mostly for when he's shooting the girls. So when we're seeing people like Michael and Albert and some of the stuff at the school with the older actors, it's not as evident. So it's that's part of the reason why everything about the girls feels a little bit softer.
Well, because even when it's not the pan flute too, there's some choral music in here, and it's always accompanying the girls. And again, it gives us this ethereal, dreamlike quality to all their scenes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the reason why I struggle a bit more in the back half of the film is because we do lose a lot of that when the girls go missing, and then it's just searching the rocks, having these discussions about finances and so on.
Because I do want to talk about what is this film about? Because you can say it's about, girls go missing, but at the end of the day, it also seems to be more about how their disappearance affects people in this town. But I also don't feel like we really get a good semblance of the people in this town.
No, I think it's more about the trickle-down effect. And it's interesting, like you and I had offline conversations because, you hadn't seen this and I had. And I was like, I wanted to press you to see if you could make a kind of elevator pitch comparison. And I was like, did you get any virgin suicides out of this? And you said yes. And then I actually looked it up, and Jeffrey Eugenides, the author of the virgin suicides that Sofia Coppola bases her movie on, directly says, oh yeah, no, this movie had a huge impact on me when I was writing.
And I got huge virgin suicides like vibes from this. And that's a movie I also like as well. But again, even with Sofia Coppola, like I'm like kind of 50-50 on her, where I'm like, I like it, I respect it, but like I can't fully vibe with a lot of her films. Don't ever make me watch Marie Antoinette again.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, and not to deviate too much on this tangent, but I think part of what I sometimes struggle with is that she is an inherently visual storyteller as opposed to like a more traditional narrative.
Right.
And I think you could make the same argument of Picnic at Hanging Rock, where sometimes it's more about the mood and the vibe and just the dreamy imagery as opposed to like, oh, let's really interrogate how these girls' disappearance affects the community.
So that's the thing, you mentioned the swan earlier, and like I didn't realize that the swan is kind of meant to be what Michael thinks, I guess, Miranda kind of became a swan, the swan is symbolic of Miranda. And when I knew that, I was watching, the transitions are kind of making this clear. Visually, the film is telling me that this is meant to be kind of like the embodiment of Miranda. But and that's again where I'm saying I feel like if I was reading that in a book, that would be easier for me to pick up on.
Oh, you want it spelled out on the page.
But it would be spelled out in the page, though.
Not necessarily, but yes, no, I take your point. It's I think sometimes because the film is dreamy like that, it can be easy to have your mind almost wander a little bit because you're just being hypnotized by the imagery. And then you realize, oh, wait, this is actually part of the storytelling mechanism. Like I need to pay attention because there's like whole relationships that are only really communicated visually. And like the characters don't reveal a ton about themselves through things like dialogue.
Not at all. And so I do think this is a movie that would reward rewatches. And I did watch this a second time, but even then I'm like, I don't think I fully like absorbed everything that Weir is trying to accomplish in this film.
Yeah, it is a deep film. And I'm not trying to suggest like, oh, folks, if you watch this and you didn't like it, it means you're missing the point or you're not getting the film. It's more just like this is a film that helps if you can sit with it, think about it a little bit, maybe tease it apart. But also like I watched this movie a couple of times over 20 years. So you can play the long game with it and get more out of it that way too.
Yeah, watch it in 20 years. Well, I own the fucker, so I'll probably watch it at some point.
There you go. Here's the thing. This is an RE film through and through, so I guarantee you will watch this at least one more time.
Well, that's because, honestly, it is an RE film because I feel like there is like a liminal space / cryptid element to this film, even though there's not actually a cryptid in the film.
No, I mean, here's the thing. There's very little in the film apart from, like, girls go missing. Like, it's not like we're actually seeing much of anything. The film really encourages you to use your imagination, but you're not wrong when you said, there's all these scenes of like the girls kind of like looking at the rocks and it feels like something is happening and it's the imagery as well as the score. But like, there's some fucking weird shit that goes on at Hanging Rock, and that's part of the movie's allure and its mystique.
Well, I guess then you would say Hanging Rock is the cryptid in this case.
Yes, I would agree, especially the way it is shot in the film.
Yeah, it's like a Bermuda Triangle type place.
Yeah.
But for sound design, they focused heavily on the sounds of the wildlife. Cicadas, especially cicadas, bird life, and the general sound of the bush was very intentional because the presumption was that the landscape took or consumed these girls, so the landscape had to be alive in the film as well.
Yeah, I got a couple of different references, but one of them definitely suggests that because Weir never actually gives us a villain, it's the environment that is the villain. So if you think about it, we're actually seeing the villain all the time. People are fully fucking surrounded by it.
Well, and the thing that stuck with me the most, the sound that I really walked away from the movie being like, that sound's not going to leave my brain, is just the sound of the wind hitting the rocks.
Yeah.
Like, it is constant throughout. It opens the film, actually. When the credits start, like that's the first thing we hear is the wind hitting the rocks in this like echo chamber.
Yeah, like going through the crevices and the passageways and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, for the score, they pretty much use a single piece of music composed by, as you said, Romanian pan flute musician. Oh boy. I was going to say George Zamfir, but what did you say? Zamfir. Okay. Weir thought that it sounded like a sort of pre-Christian music, and since Picnic at Hanging Rock was dealing with, as he says, the old gods, he felt it appropriate. But I guess Zamfir was like done doing pan flute music by this time, and so they just took a piece he had already done.
Yeah, I was pretty sure I had heard this a billion times before.
I mean, I hear it a billion times in this movie.
Yeah, you sure do.
But Picnic at Hanging Rock premiered on August 8th, 1975, as you said, happy 50th anniversary, and went on to gross 5.1 million Australian dollars, which is equivalent to a little over $40 million today.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did you tell us the budget?
I don't really for sure know the budget. I mean, it's probably around 400 to 500,000 Australian dollars. So it was profitable, and obviously, this doesn't look like a big budget picture.
No, it's gauzy and slick in the way that you can tell Weir is not a first-time filmmaker. Like, he knows how to stretch his budget and make it look good. That maybe is ungenerous to people who are low-budget filmmakers and know how to do the exact same thing. I just need to say it does have a certain amount of polish to it. But yeah, it's also not the kind of film that requires something like a $20 million budget.
Well, yeah, because this isn't like an action-heavy film. It's a lot of people walking around talking. They're using natural locations, buildings that already exist, so...
Yeah, I will say the exterior shooting locations around Hanging Rock, it looks like that would be difficult to get film equipment around, particularly for mid-70s.
Yeah, I actually, because I didn't find this out, but I wanted to know if, they had like the crew like maybe camping near the site, or if, it was just like, we're just lugging everything up there every day.
Because like, we see characters struggling with the incline. It is not an easy natural geography. So, I don't know how what it's like to shoot a film there as a result.
Well, and the wild thing is, so the actual picnic scene itself was meant to be like a full day of shooting, so 8 hours. But the problem is they only had the perfect lighting for an hour every day between noon and 1. And so they had to instead shoot the picnic scene for 1 hour a day over the course of 8 days.
Ooh, that is a lot of Cupid cake.
But, okay, so last thing before I pass it up to you. So this did screen at Cannes in May of 1976. So after it premiered in Australia already, this was complete with the publicity stunt of a picnic laid out in a local park with a bunch of girls in like little like schoolgirl dresses.
Love it.
It was extremely well received internationally, though one of the producers said they heard someone moan, "That was one of the most boring things I've ever seen in the bathroom," after one of the screenings. Either way, we are looking at a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Letterboxd users have given this a 3.8 out of 5 or a 7.6 out of 10.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, again, this is considered, like, if you're talking about Australian cinema, this is almost always going to be brought up.
Yes.
Yeah. But, Joe, what happens in this movie?
Well, before we go there, would you like to play a game?
I want to play a game. The rules are simple. What you have to do is sit here and talk to me.
Okay, so I flipped it around, so we're still playing our usual trailer game, but since you don't like it when I make you guess what a film is about, I'm going to give you the log line from a film, and I would like you to tell me the title.
Yes, okay, I can do this. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this trailer is one of 2 on the 2004 Umbrella Entertainment release, and here is the log line. So I'm looking for a title. So, logline is, when lawyer David Burton is assigned a case to defend a group of Indigenous Australian men, he is unprepared for the nightmares and dreamscapes ahead. Accused of murdering one of their own, the men stand trial amidst suspicious circumstances, and as Burton becomes plagued by unsettling visions, he is drawn to the mysterious Chris Lee for answers to his torment. As the erratic climate turns dangerous, and I'm going to give you a clue, it's literally the climate that is turning dangerous,
Oh.
Burton senses a greater power at play where tribal customs and the ancient ideas of Dreamtime, capital D, may be more than just an ominous warning. Trace, tell me the name of this movie.
This is actually great because I do know the name of this because I was doing a deep dive into Peter Weir's filmography when I was trying to figure out where he's from. This is 1977's The Last Wave.
You are correct. Yeah.
Yes.
I figured I would give you the easy one. There is another title called The Mango Tree. That's the other trailer on
Wouldn't
this.
have known that.
Yeah. And that one's not a genre one. This one I watched the trailer and I thought, oh, there's some pretty fun, interesting imagery going on here as well. So I think maybe it's also just a bit of a benchmark for Weir's films. But yeah, I thought you might have come across this title in your research and would therefore do better.
Well, because the Aboriginal Australians, it obviously plays a big part in that movie, and not so much in Picnic at Hanging Rock, although we are mentioning Aboriginals. We say abos a lot.
Yes, of course, that's the Australian tradition. You just lop off the back half of every word and it becomes the slang that people use. But I'm going to make a bold declarative statement that I was going to wait to say until the end. But I actually think that this movie is all about colonialism and the fact that there is no Australian Indigenous characters. We see one gentleman who is part of one search party. I think the fact that this is all white people and specifically a British schoolhouse, it's all about Indigenous people via Hanging Rock, taking back space, abducting white people and telling them to get the fuck off their land.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
I would also watch the movie where that's explicit.
Right? Yeah. Just like Hanging Rock falling on these white girls. Get off my land.
Are you sick of the same old superheroes fighting to save the world yet again? What if there was a superhero who fought for things you actually need, like health insurance and job security? That superhero is a radioactive janitor named the Toxic Avenger, and he needs you to show the fuck up on August 29th exclusively in theaters. Buy tickets now at toxicavenger.com/podcast because a better superhero is possible.
Okay, so I'm going to reference Sophie Durbin occasionally, but also her reading did inform other parts that I'm just going to I'm not paraphrasing, I'm just sort of gently drawing on. But they wrote a piece called The Presence of Romantic Absence in Picnic at Hanging Rock for a site called Perisphere, the Trilon Cinemas blog. Okay. So Trace, this movie opens as you indicated with a true crimey style text that reads, on Saturday, 14th of February, 1900, a party of schoolgirls from Appleard College picnicked at Hanging Rock near Mount Macedon in the state of Victoria. During the afternoon, several members of the party disappeared without trace. Question for you. Do you like this? We heard the rationale for why. It sounds like it was more of a finance thing as opposed to a creative thing. But do you enjoy knowing that off the top, or would you have rather figured this out about halfway through the film when the girls actually disappear?
Oh, no, I like this. Also, this quote is pretty much on the poster for the film, too. So, I mean, yes. you I guess if you were in the 70s, you would have known this no matter what. But yeah, I like it because I think when you know they're going to go missing, I think that it kind of gets your brain working ahead of time. And so you're kind of I think it makes the first act more enjoyable.
Okay, that's interesting, because you know me, I don't like spoilers. I don't like things that begin in media res. I'm not suggesting that's what this is. It's maybe a soft early version of it. But yeah, I think you're right in that it can help you to read into particular things. I found myself frequently looking at Miranda and really paying attention to the things that she was saying, because she seems to have an almost psychic awareness that something is about to happen.
Yeah, 100%. But I guess, for you, too, covering true crime so much, I know this isn't true, obviously, but 9 times out of 10, or I guess 10 times out of 10, you know the story when you're watching a true crime thing. So this isn't really egregious for me.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't say 10 times out of 10 because there's plenty of times where, you may know it's based on a true story, but you don't necessarily know if people are going to survive or if we're going to figure out who the killer or the abductor was or something like that. But yeah, it's part of the selling hook for these kinds of stories.
I guess that's the thing, though, is when I hear that, I go do my research immediately and then I'll go watch the movie to be like, cool, how did they adapt it?
Oh my God. You are so much more type A than I think you should be giving most viewers credit for.
All my type A people, please let me know if you do the same thing. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler when it happened in real life.
That is fair. That is fair. Although, yeah, the number of times I've seen an adaptation just take big swing liberties with the story you're telling. It's like, oh, are you sure you want to say this is based on or inspired by? Because we're dealing with a lot of fiction here.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, let's fade in on some gorgeous scenery of the bluffs of things. And then we have Miranda, who is played by Anne Lambert, speaking in a voiceover. She's talking about dreams within a dream. So very much laying the foundation for things to come. Natural geography as well as dreamlike imagery. Mm-hmm. So at Appleyard's college, the girls wake up for the romantic routine. So let's not forget, this is Valentine's Day, February 14th. So they get up, they wash their faces, they read love letters, they tighten their corsets in a row. It looks really fucking painful.
I didn't try to read too much into like the underlying like sexual repression theme of the movie when I was watching it. But the corset scene, the shot of these corsets, like we have like these 4 girls in a row, all in the same frame, just tying each other's corsets. And it's just like, okay, right off the top, like we're getting like sexual repression right there.
Sure. Yeah. Like button it up and get the other girls to help you so that they can also, you know, feel your body, help to get it into the right position. Like this reminded me of things that you see at like theater camp or preschools where it's, you know, like massage trains and other things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like this as the embodiment of both of those ideas, like literally lace up those repressions, but also do it to yourself. Involve a girlfriend. Okay. So Miranda proposes to her roommate, Sarah, who is played by Margaret Nelson, aka not even subtext. Like this girl is full on queer.
I did detect queerness in this film. I will say, and I'm going to say part of this quote from Peter Weir, but I'm going to finish it.
I don't trust Peter Weir's quotes on this film when it comes to this topic.
He says, "You know, I was always bothered by the idea that people said it was like lesbians or something. It's so boring. It wasn't that. It wasn't truthful." So I'll finish it later, but I just want you to know that.
Oh, no, I know, because one of the big thematic readings of this film, like plenty of people have written about this because it's a classic, because it's been around for 50 fucking years, people always read the repressed sexuality or just the sexuality in general into this film. And the fact that the straight white male director is like, oh, it's so boring to read the lesbianism into it. It's like, dude, your movie is about repression. Like, get on the train.
Yeah. I mean, and like, you know, I guess maybe see how you'd be like, no, Sarah's just like one of her, like, she just really likes her. But like,
she has a fucking shrine to her. She writes poetry to her. She cries when she thinks that she's not going to come back.
Well, because I want to, is her death a suicide?
So most people read it as a suicide. I think that if you want to be a little bit mean-spirited, you could also potentially read Mrs. Appleard as a killer.
Oh, yeah. And see, now I want to watch that miniseries because I feel like the miniseries might play more with that idea. Because I think it does spend more time on the unraveling of Mrs. Appleard.
Yeah, because she's definitely, at bare minimum, an antagonist in this movie.
Yeah, but then we find out she dies in, like, the coda, in text, or in voiceover.
It's wild. It's a very wild decision.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miranda is proposing that Sarah come to visit her family in Queensland sometimes, but then she kind of says, oh, but you should learn to love someone else because I'm not going to be here much longer. And I feel like there's 2 different ways that you can read this. So it's Miranda acknowledging that Sarah is in love with her and saying, well, you need to let go of this schoolgirl crush because I'm not going to be here forever and nothing is going to happen. Or it could also be, I'm about to be abducted in giant rocks on this field trip and I will not be here.
Yeah, there's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to this girl's performance that implies that she knows what's about to happen.
I think Margaret Nelson is fantastic in this movie. It is weird because, as you suggested, many of these characters don't feel like proper characters. Like, we don't get to know a ton about them. Miranda fully disappears, I think, even before the midway point of the movie.
Yeah.
And yet she has such a lasting, haunting presence over the entire film. And not just because, we see, people thinking about her, associating swans with her and so on, but just she has that screen presence, that charisma that lingers.
Well, it's the Rebecca effect, albeit though, like we at least get to see Miranda before she disappears, but it's very much the Rebecca effect.
Yeah. Also lesbian.
Also lesbian, repressed lesbians.
Okay, so it's a boarding school for girls. It's meant to be all about etiquette. It's a finishing school, essentially. But clearly, these girls like to gossip and let their hair down and all this other stuff. So they're chit-chattering about all of these romantic letters that they have gotten and so on. So Miss Lumley, who is one of the chaperones or one of the women who works there, she's played by Kirsty Child. She chastises them for being too loud. And she says, if you don't behave, you're not going to get to go on this day trip out to Hanging Rock. And this is where we learn that she is staying behind and so is Sarah. And early on, you don't know why. Like, you don't really understand why Miranda makes it a big deal. Like, oh, you could come and visit my family. And here it's like, well, why doesn't Sarah get to go on the field trip? And then it's only over time that we come to realize, oh, Sarah's an orphan. She's struggling to pay her dues at the school. And she gets picked on a lot by this headmistress.
So would you say that this is like a classism thing because she's the poor one?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the girls continue to toast St. Valentine. They're frolicking in the garden. And then this is when Mrs. Appleard, who, as you said, is played by Rachel Roberts, gives them this stern talking to. There's basically 2 takeaways to this message. You need to present yourself with decorum. You need to be mindful of dangers. We talk about venomous snakes and poisonous ants because it's still Australia. But also, they will be expected back that evening at 8 p.m. So, Of course, we have a ticking clock scenario.
But my favorite, because Mrs. Appleyard is very strict. It's all about etiquette. As you said, this is like a finishing school. But my favorite tidbit of her little monologue is, it's warm outside, so you're allowed to take your gloves off when you get to the rock.
Yes, yeah. It's all about that polite society because in some ways it's a reputational thing for her. So, I was curious to hear that Weir cast a lot of local girls because I actually don't get a ton of Australia. And maybe this is the dubbing that you were talking about. Almost all these characters sound British. And then we've got Sarah, who does sound more Australian because she and, spoiler alert, Albert, who is the help that works with Michael, they are brother and sister, but they are fully Australian.
Which, but that's something also where it's a mystery and it's made very clear that they're brother and sister, but it doesn't really come to anything.
It does, if you want to believe in this kind of psychic connection that they have, where like jumping all the way to the end of the film, where Albert says she appeared in his dream, and it kind of seemed like Sarah anticipated that she's either letting him know, hey, I'm going to die by suicide, or I'm about to be murdered by this old bitch.
But either way, they don't meet.
They never meet up. They never connect. Yeah, like we don't really know anything about their situation apart from the fact that they were separated. But again, that's your classist piece. Yeah. So we're going to climb into this carriage that's driven by Mr. Hussey, who was played by Martin Vaughn, and we have 2 chaperones. So we have Miss McCraw, who is the older lady, played by Vivian Gray, and then we have Mademoiselle de Poitiers, who is played by Helen Morse.
I'm so glad that you pronounced that, but they say Mamselle instead of Mademoiselle a lot, which I thought was really interesting.
I'm just going to be saying Mademoiselle for the rest of the episode.
That's fine. Mamselle,
But she is the younger, much more caring one. I'm not going to lie. I think there's also a little bit of queer coding in her relationship with Miranda. So basically, everybody loves Miranda.
Well, because she's the one that lets her go off, even though Mrs. Appleyard said, don't run off.
Yeah, because we don't want to get caught by local people with our gloves off, ladies. Okay, so the carriage passes through town. We can see it's a small affair, but the girls are almost treated to a small amount of celebrity, right? Like we have the little kids who chase after them. We've got men tipping their hats. So like we're part of the community, but we're not part of the community. So this is also the point where the girls can take off the gloves because, we're safely out of sight. We're just on the road, so it's okay. Sidebar. I cannot fucking imagine how hot it would be in these getups. Like later on, when we see Michael climbing around the base of Hanging Rock and he's fully wearing almost like a 3-piece suit, I expired from sweat.
It's February, but I'm assuming the winters there is kind of like their flip-flops, right? Where like this is kind of their summer?
This would be the tail end of summer. January is the height of summer in Australia. So February 14th would be like basically August, September for us.
Yeah, I was hot
it
just
would be
looking at these girls.
Hot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like when they take off their shoes and socks, I thought, yes, that is correct.
I mean, the thing is, too, I was like, y'all doing a picnic, but you're really just sitting around doing nothing for most of this picnic. I didn't even see you eating.
I mean, because they are dying of heat exhaustion. Yeah. It's so hot. I can't even move. I'm just going to read Romeo and Juliet for a little bit.
They're worried about clocks, and I'm like, do you have water?
Right. Yes. It's like, I can't remember anything. Yeah, you had heat exhaustion, sweetie. Okay, so as we're traveling in this carriage, we do get a little bit of, I'm not going to say exposition, but I do think it's important for building the mythology of Hanging Rock. Yeah. So we've got Mr. Hussey and Miss McCraw debating the age. And then Miss McCraw almost has this whimsical monologue about like the geographic formation and how long it's been there. And, the girls get a little bit cute with it too, where it's like, oh, it's been waiting there forever just for us.
I know, like the hubris.
Well, but it's also so sweet and romantic. Like one of the things I found really interesting in the piece by Durbin, she mentions that Lindsay's book makes it very clear that there are actually no boys around the school. And like they wouldn't be going into town alone. So like the girls wrote the letters to themselves. So they're play acting these romantic fantasies in every part of their life. Like to me, this is I think one of the reasons it's such a famous text is not just because it's really well made. It's got that air of mystery, but also because this is a really seminal, ominal version of like a girl's coming of age story.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, but I do like what you're saying about like the establishing the mythology of this rock because it's like barely a million years, blah blah blah. But like it provides like almost a grandeur to the location before. Well, I would say before we've even seen it, but the movie does open with a shot of Hanging Rock.
Yeah, but it almost looks like a painting in some ways, and then as we get closer, we realize, oh no, that's the natural element right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, as soon as we get there, like I put in my notes, Mrs. McCraw seems dazed as the carriage approaches the rock. So, and we'll get this kind of line later when the clocks all stop and McCraw says, "Oh, it must be something magnetic." And that to me is, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, that to me is a clue.
Yes, yeah. And I should note, this is also what happens in Wolf Creek, where it's like, oh, the car doesn't start, the watch compass is completely spinny, it's these unexplainable phenomenons, and I think Australia just does this really well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's introduce Michael. I've been shitting on him this whole episode. He is played by Dominic Guard, and here's the thing, he's a bit of a cutie patootie, but also so boring. Very boring.
Albert's the most interesting male in the movie.
By far, yes. And not just because he's played by a young John Jarrett.
Oh my God.
Creek.
What? I didn't know that.
Oh my God. You didn't recognize that face?
I did not, but cutie patootie.
Yeah. I had to tell Jen when we covered Wolf Creek for the True Crime podcast. It's like, apparently he's a kind of shit in real life. So we can only appreciate his film performances.
Well, I will appreciate the way he looks in this movie.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Both these boys. Cute. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Michael is dining with his Aunt Fitzhubert. That's the last name. We never actually learn the first name of either his aunt or his colonel uncle. But yes, the aunt is played by Olga Dickey. The uncle is played by Peter Collingwood. And he then sneaks off because it's like, boo, old people. Like, they're also at the base of Hanging Rock. But he's like, I'm not interested in hanging out with you two old folks because you're just sitting here. Mm-hmm. So he goes off and shares a flirtatious drink with Albert. And the reason I say flirtatious is because this feels like I'm sneaking away from my family so I can have a dalliance with the help.
No, 100%. I picked up like more of a queer reading from these two boys than I did from any of the girls, and maybe that's just because I'm a gay man. But
maybe, yeah.
And I didn't expect the movie to actually do anything with it. I thought it was going to be subtext, but like it seemed
pretty.
Is
there.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. And, you know, I think people can quibble with the fact that, every time there's an intimacy in a friendship between two men, we always read it as queer. And yeah, that's a bit of a societal construction, but I do, like, I get a vibe between these two. You know, there's a moment where they check out the girls as they're crossing the creek, and it's like literally we see ankle, and these boys practically jizz in their pants because, 1900 Victorian times. But so much of their interactions is like, I've got a secret and I just had to tell someone, and you're that person.
But it's because, to piggyback off what you were saying, he's sneaking away from his aunt and uncle to go like have a tryst. It feels like the start of a porno.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So let's hop back to the girls. Miranda gets out of the carriage so that she can open this gate. And this is another suggestion that she's just a little bit more psychically attuned to the natural environment, because she looks up and she sees this flock of birds taking flight, and it plays on screen like she's having a vision. Even though we can clearly see that these birds are flying, it's superimposed over her face, and she has this look of wonder on her. And for a moment, you can almost debate, is this really happening, or is it something she's just kind of seeing in her mind's eye?
Well, and the Weir will use the superimpositions a lot throughout the rest of the film, but I think it's more so to, again, kind of enhance that idea of, this is like the bush, like, that is always a part of her. It's consuming her even at this very moment.
It's exerting a force on her. Like, in some ways, it feels like they are being led to the rock. And you said a trance, and I fully, like, that's another great way to describe this movie as a whole. It feels like you are entering a trance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're still doing some toasting to St. Valentine. We do eat this heart-shaped cake, even though we will later see it being consumed by ants, because I don't know. If it's hot, do you really want something sickly sweet like a piece of cake?
I do not. If I feel sweat running down my entire body, absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay, so back at the college, we've got Mrs. Appleard punishing Sarah for refusing to learn a poem. And we learn that Sarah has a poem that she can happily recite. It's one that she wrote. It's a romantic ode to Miranda.
She says an ode to St. Valentine, but like, just, do the math.
She's describing a certain someone.
I did. So she doesn't want to say this other poem because she didn't even try to memorize it, but she says it doesn't make any sense. And Appleard's reply is, "Sense, you little ignoramus."
Yeah. And I definitely think you can make a hard edge reading of this movie where Appleard is a full capital V villain, especially in the way she treats Sarah. But, I mean, by the end of this, I'm actually going to make the argument that Mrs. Appleard is a widowed minimum bisexual, but possibly lesbian as well. And I think that she is punishing the queer youth that she sees in front of her because she doesn't feel like it doesn't adhere to the standards of propriety that she refused to act on.
Yeah, it's... I'm going to get so much hate for this.
Okay.
I liken Mrs. Appleyard to Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but here's the thing. I get that Ratched is the villain of that piece, but I don't know, man. Sometimes when I see that movie or read that book, I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. She's not that bad.
Well, I think what makes a good villain is somebody that you can hiss at when they do really terrible things, but also you do understand their motivations. Like, it's not just... Like, that's why I always get super bored when, especially like action movie villains, they want to take over the world or they want to make a bunch of money. Sure, it makes sense, but it's also really boring, very conventional, kind of trite. Whereas people like this, Mrs. Appleyard, there's moments where we get towards the end of the film where she fully doesn't care that these girls have gone missing. She hates that it might close her fucking school. And you're just like, that is villain behavior. You don't care about human life, but also I totally get it.
Yeah, okay. Again, I know I blame everything on my age all the time, but I'm just kind of like,
sure.
yeah, honestly, I'm kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't want to lose my business either. This sucks.
Yeah, and it's something that she has no control over. Whereas, she does have control over Sarah, which is why it's, you don't get to go on the fun field trip. You get to stay here. And later on, I'm going to do some light corporal punishment.
But she doesn't let her go because she's not paying her tuition. So that makes sense. I mean, again, like me
she's
as a nice
orphan.
As a nice person, would I just say, fuck it, go ahead and go? Yes, absolutely. But, given how Appleyard is characterized, I get it. Is she kind of a bitch? Yes. Do I see her as a villain? Not particularly.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. Totally fair.
I mean, we were just defending the mayor in Jaws a month ago.
Oh, no, I'm saying we contain multitudes. All right, so we hop back to Hanging Rock. The girls are lounging, as we said. It's hot. They're just reading. They're having conversation. It's all very pretty, very painting-esque. And Mr. Hussey and Miss McCraw, yes, note that their watches have both stopped at 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Magnetism.
Yeah, and we get this moment where Edith, who is played by Christine Schuler, observes that apart from Michael and his aunt and uncle, we might be the only people in the whole world. And I feel like there's actually an alternative universe where this deviates into a whole different plot where these girls figure out, we're the only people in the world. Everyone else has disappeared. Something about Hanging Rock has protected us.
It's like a leftover situation.
Yeah. So we see Anne scrawling over this cake. We've got spectacled Marion, who is played by Jane Valois, asking Mademoiselle if she, Miranda, and dark-haired Irma, who is played by Karen Robson, can go and explore. And of course, because Miranda is part of this group, Mademoiselle is like, yeah, just don't be gone too long and stay at the base.
But that's when Miranda says, we shall only be gone a little while. But then she, like, the camera holds on her and, like, you're waiting for her to wink at the audience almost.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. It's another Miranda moment that can be read in two ways. So she, with the other girls, walks away. Edith invites herself. So we've got 4 girls, and we see Miranda turn back, and she gives this wave. And in some ways it's, hey, cool, see you soon. And Mademoiselle, very cute and flirty, is like, oh, she's so sweet. She's like a Botticelli angel, which is girl gay. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the way that Miranda waves has this air of ominous finality to it. Like, this is the last time you will see me. And we will see this image replayed in slow motion near the end of the movie. And it feels like a goodbye.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so Albert and Michael critique the girls as they cross the stream. Yeah, there's some light fat phobia going on here with Edith.
We call Edith the dumpy one so many times.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you're just like, God, men are just fucking cruel.
Well, but also, like, the way the film characterizes Edith, because she's also the whiniest one of the bunch. She's the one that's like, if I would have known it was going to be so hot, I wouldn't have gone up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a conventional depiction of a fat character. And it's like, we can put a bunch of shit onto these people because the audience knows to hate them, because we all hate fat people, don't we? Yeah. Please note the sarcasm. But yes, this is things that we do to fat people in movies quite frequently.
I guess especially in 1900.
Yeah. Okay, so the girls are climbing up. It does seem like Miranda and Michael have this moment. Like, he's looking at her. Again, it feels like a little bit of slow motion. We see her look, but it's also clear that she's not looking at him. This is actually just it's like the editing from Michael's perspective makes him think, you should pay attention to this girl. And she's like, I'm out for a walk with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
Love it. So he briefly follows them to a point, but yeah, this is where we really start to get some ominous low angle shots looking up at the rock. We've got this choral, like, chorus music playing on the soundtrack.
I made note of the choral score too, like, so, because at this point we've only had pretty much just the pan flute going on, and the choral music, it reminded me of another film score, and I could not for the life of me figure out what it was, but I really did like this choral stuff.
It's not a one-to-one because I think it's much more aggressive, but it was giving me a kind of Omen-esque vibe.
Yeah, but that's see that feels more malicious though.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas this is almost, I mean, again, we're gonna say ethereal a bunch, but it has an ethereal, heavenly vibe to it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe these Botticelli angels are being called back to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to bring Durbin in here. I mentioned earlier that they discuss the idea of using the environment as an antagonist, like the landscape being an antagonist. So Durbin says, a low rumbling earthquake sound can be heard in some shots of Picnic. In others, the camera gazes upon faces seemingly embedded in the stone. One of my favorite things. It's like it's almost Magic Eye, where if you squint at the screen, it feels like you can see things within the rocks.
Yeah, it's kind of like Easter Island, but just like in the rocks.
Yeah. So Durbin continues, the idyllic shots of the girls and their picnic are heavily filtered. As you said, an actual bridal veil was used. And when we look at the rock faces, the camera is handheld and there is no filter. So this creates a really harsh light on the scene. Yeah. Okay, so Edith is complaining she doesn't like these nasty rocks. They're investigating. And we really get a sense that they are passing through this almost liminal zone, right? Like these crevasses are narrow and tight. They have to go single file. Sometimes we're shooting from above. So it's almost like, is something looking down on them? Are we expecting an attack? Are they going to get lost? This is the part of the movie that I am so locked into. Because
again, you know that these girls are about to go missing. And so you're like, what's going to happen to them? And you'll never find out. But yes, I agree. This is the most successful part of the film for me, where I am very much like, okay, like, let's see what's going on with these girls. And even with the way they start acting, because they get tired and like, oh, is it the heat or is it the magnetism or is it some other force doing this to them?
Yeah, there's moments in the ensuing scenes where they seem to act in unison without verbally communicating. So at one point, they all lay down without saying anything and they fall fast asleep. And we cut to Miss McGraw and she seems to look afraid. And like you said, we know some of what's about to happen. I didn't expect that any of these girls were going to get out of this. So I thought all four are going to be lost.
Yeah.
And you don't know that Miss McGraw is actually going to be the fourth person to go missing.
Because we never see her get up from the picnic. So we only hear that Edith saw her like walking up the hill when she was walking down, right?
Yes, but these moments do telegraph it, right? You know, she's exhibiting the same kinds of connections with the environment that we saw with Miranda. So there is this visual cue of, oh, you should associate Miranda with Miss McGraw. Something's going on with both of them. But we're so fixated on the girls and their strange behavior, it never even occurred to me someone else was really being affected.
Well, and I guess that's why I find it a little bit surprising, though, that that McGraw didn't have more time with Miranda before they all disappeared. That it was Mademoiselle de Poitiers.
Yeah, we have to infer certain connections between characters, or we just have to maybe assume that certain people are more inclined to be affected. Like, I don't know. It's mystery.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so Edith wakes up and she complains that she feels awful. And the other three get up, say nothing. By this point, they have taken off their shoes and their stockings. And the three of them just disappear, and Edith flips the fuck out. It's immediate. She felt uncomfortable. They start to disappear. She begins screaming and she flees.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said the girls just disappear in the shot?
Well, they don't disappear in the shot, but they go into like a crevice around the corner.
Yes. Okay. So actually, one thing I forgot to mention. So my runtime on this was about an hour and 48 minutes long. And apparently, this is the director's cut that Peter Weir put together in 1998. Previously, the movie was an hour and 55 minutes long. So the director's cut is actually shorter. I don't know what they cut out.
Okay.
But apparently, since 1998, like, this is the version that's been available. So I don't know what the longer version entails, but I'm assuming it's more of a tightening up as opposed to like maybe full scenes missing, but that's an assumption on my part.
Yeah, because that's the runtime that I also watched. It was like just under 150, so... yes, okay, so Edith has fled, the other girls have disappeared, and we do cut away to Mrs. Appleard sensing something and kind of going to the window and looking out, not really seeing anything. Okay. So again, everybody does seem to have a bit of a psychic connection to one another, albeit maybe not always super strong.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's introduce a new character, Trace. So it's sometime later in the afternoon, and we just, like, out of nowhere are introduced to, I'm going to call her the maid, or the domestic help at the academy. So this is Minnie, played by Jackie Weaver.
Jackie Weaver! You could not mistake that voice for anyone else.
No, and, classic of Australian cinema, obviously quite a bit younger, and she is engaging in some afternoon delight with Tom, who is played by Tony Llewellyn-Jones. And this gets interrupted because Mrs. Appleard calls and wants her to come and help. And we see it's actually not afternoon, it's more like late evening delight, but it is 9:30. So we are a full 90 minutes late for when the girls should have returned to the academy. But it's okay because the bell rings. That means that they have returned. But not everybody, because it's just a teary-eyed Mademoiselle and Mr. Hussey confessing that 3 girls and Miss McGraw are missing on the rock. But nobody remembers the details, because Mr. Hussey even says most of us were asleep.
Which, I'm actually surprised that Mademoiselle and Hussey don't get in more trouble for this, because,
yes,
one of the, what they should have done was say, well, they went off with Mrs. McGraw, and then they all disappeared.
Oh my God, look at you trying to cover your bases.
Obviously. I mean, Mrs. Appleard's a bitch. I don't want to get on her bad side.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the only person who's really scared of her is the other woman, the woman who stayed behind and didn't go on the field trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's more one of these, okay, something has happened. We don't fully understand, but the only thing we really know is that people saw Edith come tearing out of the rock with torn clothes.
Yes.
And this is one of the things, the next couple of parts of the film really want to get into this idea of the Victorian repression, the reputation, but also the scandal that would ensue if specifically young girls go missing.
Well, because they bring up the idea of rape many times throughout this film. I believe the doctors use the phrase quite intact at least twice.
Yes, we do. Yeah. So the suggestion of not in my backyard, it must have been an outsider if they were in fact kidnapped, because what other, we don't say alien abduction in here. We don't say that they ran away. The immediate assumption is these comely young girls were probably sexually assaulted and murdered by some man.
Mm-hmm. Which, and Michael is a suspect, but not really. There's not really an investigation of that lasts beyond a scene.
Yeah, which is funny because his story does change. We definitely catch him in a lie where he says 3 girls. No, wait, 4 girls.
Okay, but to me, lie seems intentional. It's very clear also that the rock had some effect on his brain too.
He is mistaken. Yes, there are gaps in his memory as well.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce Sergeant Bumper, who is played by Wynne Roberts. This is the guy who's going to be doing most of the investigating, the interrogating, and so on. So we go to speak with Edith to try and get her to remember. She cannot. Dr. Mackenzie, who is played by Jack Fegan, reassures, yes, that she has not been molested. And we see Sergeant Bumper at home talking to his wife, who is played by Kay Taylor, and she's like, okay, well, you can tell me because I'm your fucking wife. What's the tea? And he says, there's nothing to tell. Nobody fucking remembers anything. And she says, well, you should know people are speculating. There are rumors abound all around town.
But again, we don't really spend much time in this town.
No, I guess part of it is, I think if you started to go in that direction, all of a sudden the film becomes a completely different beast. And it really does want to stay in this nebulous, romantic, ethereal mystery.
Right.
And I think if you go into the direction of how do the townspeople react, how does it affect, we get a taste of it with Mrs. Appleyard, but I think it becomes more of a crime procedural if you do the we're pointing fingers at the outsiders. Let's face it, we'd probably be pointing fingers at indigenous people as well.
I guess then maybe like the school and its inhabitants are meant to be kind of a microcosm of the town.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you maybe gleaned onto something. The fact that Michael is questioned but ultimately never really pursued as a suspect probably has something to do with the fact that he is fucking rich.
Because if it was Albert, it might be the other way around.
Oh, 100%. Albert would be fucked. Okay, so we take Edith, Mademoiselle does, back to the rock to try to recreate her time, but she can't remember anything except a red cloud overhead as she passed Miss McGraw, who was going the other way, but we have to whisper something because it's not decent, but eventually we discover that, according to Edith at least, because as you said, we never see any of this, Miss McGraw was not wearing a skirt, just her drawers.
Scandalous, though, right? Like, ooh, boy.
I mean, here's the thing. A woman of this age who is not married, who is a representative of this school. Yeah, no, this would, I mean, you want to talk about rumors and tons of wagon.
Oh, yeah. Which because she tells Mademoiselle this, but I don't think Appleyard hears this. Or at least we don't see Appleyard hear this. Because I would love to see her reaction to that.
Yeah, no, Appleyard doesn't hear it, but the sergeant Bumper does. Yeah. Okay, so we do see Sarah sobbing when Bumper collects some of Miranda's clothes for the bloodhound to use, and we get more searching with this dog. Trace, did you notice how many flies are on people when they're outside throughout this movie?
Honestly, I only noticed them on Albert, I feel like. I mean, it was either Albert or Michael, but one of them, they always have flies on their face.
It's Albert, yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those things where, man, if you are out in the bush, you are getting eaten alive by flies. I stopped on the Ocean Trail as part of like a day trip between... I want to say like it was somewhere between Sydney and Melbourne, but like we got off and the wind was gusting because it's this great natural beauty. You know, it's like sheer rocks coming out of the ocean, and it's gorgeous, but also flies everywhere. I've never seen flies as heavily as I did when I was in Australia.
Doesn't
Not fun. Not great.
Look appealing.
Yeah, you basically just have to let it go and assume that you are going to have them on your face, on your body, because you would spend every moment just trying to butt them away.
Ugh.
Not fun. Anyway, okay, so, we question Michael. We're talking about whether or not they were raped, blah, blah, blah. Michael, like, life continues pretty quickly. So we do see that his uncle and aunt are entertaining guests under a tent as we have musicians playing classical music out on the lawn, because you know what? We're rich, and, you know, these girls, sure, it's a sad mystery, but it doesn't affect our lives. But Michael can't let it go quite as easily. So again, we sneak away to Albert so that we can say, I think the girls are still alive. I can't let it go. We need to go back up to Hanging Rock.
Okay, Joe, I wrote my exact bullet point note. Albert doesn't want to, but eventually shows up at his house with a horse and gestures him to come on so they can look for the girls. And in parentheses, I wrote, gay.
Oh my God, I wrote gay so many times in my notes. Gay. Yeah. It's like, ooh, let's have this rendezvous where we both ride horseback into the woods.
Yeah, right?
And also look for the girls. Yeah.
Insert bareback mountain jokes here.
Sure, exactly. But bring the lube. I don't want to see more spitting, please. All right, so yes, they sneak out so that Michael can explore. Eventually, Albert has to call him back, but Michael refuses to return home. So he's going to spend overnight at the base of Hanging Rock, and he asks Albert to lie on his behalf, which again feels very, you know, Midnight Lovers kind of thing. But we do actually see them lying down, like preparing to go to sleep. And the way this is edited, it makes it look like they're thinking of one another.
100%. Also, I'm not even on the gay thing right now, but the modern films that this kind of lore reminds me of are the horror and the high desert films.
Oh, okay. Which are queer, folks, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So actually, yeah, I am on the gay thing still.
There we go. So we see Michael start to resume his search, even though it is nighttime. It's a really lovely transition where, you know, he gets up and he starts looking, and then it's daytime all of a sudden. But he's leaving a literal paper trail for himself. So he's sticking pieces of paper onto the local plant life so that he can mark where he's been. And this will help him later when he ends up getting lost and enters into a kind of trance, and Albert has to come and collect him because he has not returned. Were you intrigued by the fact that Michael seems to fall under the spell of the rock? Like, there's a moment where he basically can't even walk. He has to crawl on his stomach.
Okay, he doesn't have to. He just is crawling on his stomach. And
he can't move forward in any other position. I mean, you could read it as, oh, he's spent the night here out in the elements. He's probably dehydrated. We haven't seen him eat anything in a while. But also, no, it's probably the rock.
Well, and that's where it feels like a nightmare to me. Have you ever had those nightmares where you're like running or walking towards something, but there's a force pushing you back that's like making you move almost in slow motion?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and you're not making any progress.
Yeah, that's what this felt like to me. And I think
Interesting.
Sometimes it can be hard, because I mean, I'm not saying this is a dream. This is obviously actually happening in the world of the film. But I think sometimes when it's like dreamy stuff, it's hard for me it's hard for me to suss out the reality versus the dream narrative.
Sure. Like if you had him suddenly wake up with a start, I would have believed, oh, okay, this was him dreaming this.
Well, it's also when like a dream is presented with not many signifiers. You know, we're not doing like the wavy like screen like
No, that's true. In fact, I think we only get like maybe one dream in this entire movie, if that. People talk about dreams. I don't know how much of it we're actually seeing.
Right, but and I don't think any scenes in this movie are like stealthily like dream sequences that we're not like privy to. But I guess maybe I'm not related to this movie even, but it's like just like when dreams are presented without any kind of fantastical element to them,
and you're left to then question, oh, so some of that was a dream or some of it wasn't, and how do I determine what was what?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it when filmmakers fuck with my head like that. Okay, so yes, Michael has basically been rendered incapacitated. He cannot help himself, so Albert appears and he finds the Englishman mute. He's a little bit bloody. He's non-responsive, so Albert ends up calling for help. And before he is taken away by carriage, Michael passes what I thought was a piece of paper, but is actually eventually revealed to be a piece of a dress into Albert's hand. So Albert follows the path back to where Michael was exploring, and we find the body of Irma, and she is still alive.
Still alive. Gold-toothed Irma.
Okay, sure.
She's got one gold tooth on her bottom rail. I just thought it was really interesting. I didn't know if it was the actress's tooth or it was like a character choice, but...
Yeah, that is specific, because if it's not a character choice, then it's obviously standing out.
Yeah.
Okay, so in town, we see the crowd has gathered. We've seen this a couple times. Like they actually surround Bumper's house and they demand to know. I definitely wrote in my notes, they want to know. The people have a right to know.
The people have a right to know.
But I mean, I guess... As you said, this isn't a huge component of the film, but we do keep getting shots or repeated refrains of this where, like, people are gossiping. They want to know. The mystery is being kept alive. And we will come to understand that this will come to doom Mrs. Appleard.
Yeah, because no one's wanting to go to her school. They're all flying back to the UK.
Exactly, because they're all just speculating, oh, bad shit is happening there, and the townspeople will not let it go.
I guess boating back to the UK.
Sure.
Yeah.
No? From Australia?
When did but like when did like commercial airlines
become in 1900, yeah, that would be... You might train.
My God. I'm like, when did the Wright brothers do a plane?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Okay, so Irma has been found alive. Mrs. Appleard updates the girls. So we don't have any other news about the other girls, but we do learn that Irma is convalescing, but she is unlikely to return before the end of term. By the way, she will never come back. Well, she comes back, but only to say goodbye.
Well, and get harassed. But yeah, Mrs. Appleard is the only one that is not happy about Irma's return. But not because, for reasons you might expect, because she's like, well, if we got one but not the others, that's worse for us.
Yeah, optic-wise, it actually just keeps the story alive. It would be better for either no girls to be found or all of them to be found. Or even to just like, oh, this one's alive, the other three are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what she tells Miss Lumley, because of course Miss Lumley is actually happy. Mademoiselle is actually happy. You know, Sarah's like, oh, I couldn't be Miranda. Yeah, but the school is in trouble. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it out on that fucking orphan who hasn't paid her tuition.
Oh my God.
So she basically tells Sarah, you need to tell your rich benefactor they've got to pay up or else you're going to have to make alternative plans. And Sarah's like, cool, I'm real sad. I don't care right now. So Dr. Mackenzie takes a look at Irma. Irma is actually staying with Michael and his aunt and uncle. And we learn, this is very unusual, Trace, that Irma has scratched hands and a head wound, possibly a concussion, but she's only really suffering from shock and exposure. So one of the things that's interesting about this, Durbin notes, is we don't actually see any of the scratches, the torn fingernails or anything. So Weir talks about it, but he's not salacious. Like, we don't get gratuitous close-ups of, oh, look at her finger trauma or anything. So the film is actually... it keeps that romantic kind of soft focus to even the harder edge stuff in the film.
Well, because we will also learn that Irma is also quite intact.
Yes, she is. And also, she remembers nothing at all. So everybody who comes out of this fucking rock is useless in terms of memory. Yes, one of the interesting things that we should note, though, is that, so we remember that Irma, along with Marion and Miranda, took off their shoes and their stockings. But in Irma's case, there's also no corset. So that is why it's important that, we discover, she's intact, is because there's no reason for her to have taken off the corset, except for the fact that it's fucking hot. And why would you wear a corset?
Oh, God, I'm just thinking about the corset. All the layers, yes, but the corset in this heat.
I can barely breathe, but I look great, reputationally speaking. No one's going to accuse me of being a loose woman. Girl, you're out in the outback. Who fucking cares? Technically not the outback, but anyway. Okay. There is a brief scene in Chekhov's greenhouse. I could not figure out who these characters are. I think one of the guys is who Minnie is fucking, but I was like, I have white man facial blindness for a lot of the dudes in this movie. There's only about 4 of them, and they all look exactly the same.
Are you saying Chekhov's greenhouse just because it's going to come into... that's where Sarah's body will be found later?
Yeah, it feels like the only reason we introduce this location is so that we can have a body in here later.
Yeah. Because I know the scene you're talking about, but I didn't think it was notable enough to make a note about it.
No, it's brief. It's super brief. We do this thing where we show someone that a plant will react or like change color if you stroke it. And I thought, okay, so it's again reinforcing this idea that nature is vibrant, it acclimatizes, and maybe sometimes we shouldn't fuck with it.
Never.
Stay in your house. Don't go into nature.
Don't go outside.
In the words of My Favorite Murder, don't go into the woods.
I've lived by that rule my entire life, and I'm still alive, so,
Here's the thing. Nature is beautiful. You should absolutely go out into it. Explore it. Just, be prepared with a failsafe in case you get lost or nature tries to kill you.
I have seen too many movies where people go off into the woods and die, so no, I'm not going to do that.
Come on. We've seen movies where people stay in the high rise and die.
Yeah, but,
the over-under ratio is admittedly skewing towards if you go in the woods, you will die. I take it. I take your point. Yeah. Okay. So, hey, it's been like 24 hours and Mrs. Appleard is still super fucking pissed at Sarah. So she's like, get the money, bitch. Like, I'm going to kick you out.
If you don't give me the money, you're going to have to go back to the orphanage. I'm like, it's fine, man. She's probably like 2 years left. It's fine.
I don't think it works that way, but yeah, it's rough. This woman has no fucks to give for this poor orphan. Miss Lumley and Minnie are both a little bit more empathetic, so they do try to reassure her. But this is also where we really start to lay it on that Sarah has a sibling named Bertie, not Albert, because I don't think we're actually supposed to make the connection just yet.
Yeah. But
yeah, she has this sibling that she was separated from at the orphanage.
Well,
so again, it's like the film is feeding us these mysteries, and it feels like this is the only one it will actually pay off.
So, because she says this story of her time at the orphanage also goes on, because this is also when we learn that Sarah has this is also when we're really hammering in the point that Sarah has a posture issue, because that will come into play later. But
she's so stooped, Trace.
Yeah.
Why can't she sit up Right.
People don't sit on cold steps in the darkness unless they're weak in the head.
Oh my God.
But like
1900 was wild, folks.
She says when she was a young girl at the orphanage, she wanted to be a lady circus rider. So the matron shaved her head for fear that she'd run away and join the circus. And then Sarah bit her arm. And so this matron painted her head with gentian violet, which I had to look up. It's basically a dye of some kind. So I guess like to dye, but then it's
to simulate hair.
I guess, but then it stopped being used because of like cancer and carcinogens and shit.
Wow.
But like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's an interesting tidbit of information because we don't really get backstory for any character in this movie except for Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I think Sarah is our de facto protagonist. I mean, we've got a lot of people we're spending individual time on, but the person we do learn the most about is Sarah, for sure. Yeah. Also, just like this poor girl, she's lost her sibling. She basically just gets abused everywhere she ends up, and then she dies.
Yeah.
Because being poor in this world apparently sucks balls.
Well, we also, I mean, again, we don't for sure know how she died. I lean towards the suicide theory, but
I think so too. It's the most obvious interpretation, but I mean, every interaction that Mrs. Appleard has with this girl is basically pay me or get the fuck out. It kind of feels like it could come to something more forceful.
This movie isn't bombastic enough to do something like this.
No.
But yeah, just like have Appleyard like standing in front of Sarah, who's standing in front of a window, and she's like, "Give me the tuition!" and just like pushes her out, and just like shoves her out the window.
Money or bust, bitch. Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. I will happily take more scenes of this kind as opposed to Michael sitting around his property looking at a swan and being like, Miranda,
that's Miranda.
Is that you, girl?
Yeah, exactly.
Michael is fine. It's just he adheres more to the kind of romantic fantasy that the girls had when they were running around dancing and reading the letters. Like, he fell in love with a girl without ever interacting with her. And it can play as romantic or it can play as really fucking creepy.
Oh,
like, Michael, you don't know this girl. You're not in love with her. And she's definitely not that fucking swan.
Well, I also think that if they ever had met and actually did start dating, like, she would eat him alive. Like she is out of his league, not just in terms of looks, but just in terms of like how kind of wild she is.
She actually has a personality, and I can't imagine she would put up with him for very long.
Exactly. He's boring.
He is super boring. Good thing he's cute. That'll get him by.
Not
money and cuteness. It'll get him far.
Not as cute as Albert, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the townspeople are continuing to search because they want to know. They have a right to know. So, but I do think that there is some slight like political commentary from Weir in these moments because they're looking, sure, but they're also posing for pictures.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like, oh, go.
Like, don't forget to commemorate the day of the search, everybody. Hey, I was here. Didn't I look great?
Yeah, it's it's not opportunism, but like
it's not far off from it, right?
Yeah,
like
people wanting to go to a murder site and take pictures, even if the murder is like very fresh.
Yeah, it's murder tourism for sure.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. I was really worried I was going to see this when I went to Auschwitz, when I went to Poland, and people were mostly just kind of like chill about it.
Oh, yeah. That's like people taking pictures at the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you can definitely take a picture of the sign and say, I went here and I had a powerful experience, but like, it's not the kind of thing I want to see a live vlog of.
I don't want a selfie at Auschwitz.
No, you do not. You know why? Because it's fucking rude.
Yeah.
But it's okay because there's a bunch of people who apparently don't even believe it existed. So what the fuck?
Well, I mean, where's the proof?
I cannot. This is where I want the world to stop so I can get off. Cannot handle it.
That is something where I'm just like, how do you not believe that? But I guess, they're looking at us saying, how do you believe that? But whatever.
Yeah. But there's absolutely no proof it happened. None at all.
I've never seen it.
Well, I'm not. Okay. I cannot.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, everyone knows you're joking. It's the fact that other people are not.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mademoiselle visits Irma, but the girl remembers nothing. But we do have Irma swinging by dance class. She is dressed to the nines because she is going back to Europe because, yes, everyone is a colonialist settler who is actually living on stolen land in Australia, especially these British girls, these European girls. So go back to where you came from. how much did you love the way that this unfolds? Because there's this moment, right, where the girls almost seem stunned to see Irma. Like they're basically doing ballet on the bar and they pause. She comes in, silence, awkward silence.
Yeah.
And then we switch to handheld camera and these girls are getting up in her fucking face.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I get it, but yeah, the chaos that erupts here is just delightful.
It is. I would have accepted it if they had have torn Irma apart, because it looks like they would happily devour her if it got them anywhere closer to an answer. Like, they think she's withholding, to which I say, Edith is right there.
Yeah.
Like, Edith is the one who seems to be leading this charge, to the point that Mademoiselle has to slap her in the face.
But Irma was gone for days. And
True.
Is this the same? Is this the same scene where she's wearing this gorgeous crimson cloak?
Yes.
Oh my God.
She looks divine.
Well, because this isn't a particularly colorful movie, and this feels like a very intentional choice to clothe her in something this deeply red. Maybe it's like the Scarlet Letter?
You know what? Yes, I could definitely see it. I think it's also this idea of, when you go to a finishing school, a boarding school, there's a uniform. And part of it is that you're trying to remove, ironically enough, the class elements, right? Everybody gets reduced down to the same level. So it's meant to be monochrome, just everybody is meant to be identical.
It's uniform, like uniforms.
Uniform like uniforms, yes. Which is why people, I'm going to roll my skirt up a little bit more because it's more daring. I'm going to try to wear my hair in a slightly different way. Like, people look for opportunities to express their individuality. But here, this is giving, Irma is fucking rich. Like, this outfit screams class, richness, opulent. She owns everything in this school at this moment. And it just really reinforces, these girls, they have a place that they can go back to if the whole Appleard thing falls apart. Mm-hmm. Which I think also helps us to remember what Sarah doesn't have in these moments. Yeah,
she's got an orphanage to go back to, because she sure ain't gonna go live with her brother.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important that the scene ends with Edith getting slapped in the face because, she's a bit of an instigator. Everybody leaves, and we just hear this, Mademoiselle? And it's fucking Sarah who's being tortured for her posture against the wall.
Well, and I thought it was really interesting, though, that it was Lumley that had her strapped against the wall, not Appleyard.
Oh, come on. She's such a bootlicker. She's going to do whatever Appleyard tells her to do.
I know, but Lumley's like, well, yeah, she's definitely like, she's being...
She's weak. She's a follower.
Yes, 100%. But in her defense, well, she has to fix her posture.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, it is kind of telling, though, that in the very next scene after this development, Miss Lumley quits.
Yes, she does.
So this is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Well, also in Mrs. Appleyard, so because this is when she starts getting drunk, but her hair is becoming more and more messy as the film goes on from this point on.
Oh, I love it. I mean, you know how I love a hair thing. If people are getting a haircut, if they're wearing their hair differently, it is always a visual signifier. And in this movie, it is so, like, she has got this giant kind of bouffant. It's very regal. And then, basically from this point forward, that bitch is starting to come apart. It's getting wispy, and she is getting drunk.
Mm-hmm. Which, honestly, you go, girl.
I mean, we see her at her desk looking at the book, and there's just a bunch of names crossed out. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the 3 who went missing and the 3 whose parents have taken them out. Like, the girls are dropping out of the school, and she's checking the bank balance, and it is not looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, she has a good old cry here, which I think also helps to remind us, even if we thought she was antagonistic, this is a moment of humanity. Like, she does feel something. She doesn't want to lose the school, even if it feels like maybe she could have shed a tear about the missing girls at some point.
I mean, they're gone, man. Like, I'm with Albert on this. Like, they're gone. They're not coming back. We can't do anything about it.
I mean, I don't know how much survival skills the girls have, but when he makes that comment, it's been about a week, I think he says. Well, and
also,
you don't survive by yourself in the bush unless you know what to eat or you've got lots of water and supplies.
Are you surprised the parents of any of these girls don't come?
Trace, you said it yourself, to get from Europe to Australia.
Boat, yeah. but it's been, because by the time the film ends, it's
6 weeks.
Oh, it's 6 weeks, yeah.
It's not enough time.
It's like March 27th when Appleyard dies. So, yeah, I mean, I guess
we start on Valentine's Day.
If you're boating from the UK, yeah, that's a long trip.
Yeah, that's where the 1900 really comes into play, because you think, oh yeah, this was a contemporary film. Those parents are there day 2.
They probably hit an iceberg or they got hit in a storm. Those parents are probably dead.
Yes, of course. One of those infamous, like equator icebergs. Very popular.
Don't they have to go down the Atlantic? That's where the Titanic got killed.
The Titanic got killed. Is that like a shark murdered them?
Yeah.
Was it a shark crime? Oh man, we're getting stupid. Okay. Let's see. So Albert and Michael, once again, have a late night rendezvous so that they can talk about their respective nightmares and dreams.
In a barn, by the way.
Yeah. So it's like, we didn't see them put their clothes on after they did some raw dogging.
He might as well have asked him to take a roll in the hay.
Yeah.
Roll, Lindsay.
Oh boy. This is the moment of confirmation where we discover Bertie equals Albert. This is the brother of Sarah, but he had a prophetic dream where she essentially said, I'm good, I'm gone, see ya.
But that's it though, right? Like, this is the revelation for us.
Yes.
And then that's it. Like, there's nothing else with this.
No, but this is also the payoff of the film. Like, This is the only closure we will get to an outstanding mystery.
Yeah, that is true.
Cherish it, everybody. So in the morning, Mrs. Appleyard very obviously lies to Mademoiselle that Sarah was mysteriously picked up by her guardian, and no, she didn't need any help packing, and oh, she's definitely already gone.
But I love this, though, because it doesn't seem super necessary, but as Poitier is walking out, Appleyard just goes, is that rouge? Because I guess that's slutty.
Yep.
And she's like, well, I find it becoming. Fuck you. And walks away.
100%. Like, it's the quiet quitting, right? I'm not actually giving my notice like Lumley, but I'm also definitely pushing back on your regimented bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to wear fucking makeup.
Yeah, like this place is falling apart and you're talking to me about my fucking rouge? Get out of here.
Yeah.
So we do see the remaining girls, leaving for Easter. So it's now just Mademoiselle as well as a very drunken Mrs. Appleyard. And this is where my soft queer reading, once again helped by Durbin, comes into play. But we've actually got Mrs. Appleyard talking about the loss of Miss McCraw. So she says, she basically says like, oh, I can't believe she got herself lost on the rock after I came to rely on her masculine qualities.
Oh, lesbians. Oh, my God.
A little bit, right? I mean, you could argue that Miss McCraw was very helpful in running the school. She was the authoritarian, but like the suggestion is, even if it wasn't romantic per se, it was the two of us were the people who ran this motherfucker like it was our own. We were the de facto parents, the husband, the wife, etc. I just read on my note, because gay. All right, so eventually Sarah's dead body is discovered in the greenhouse. We can see the hole in the roof and the place where she jumped off the ledge above. But, I mean, did she jump? Was she pushed? Who could say?
I guess, because I keep forgetting, right? Because Appleyard would... We don't know how Appleyard died, right?
We learn in the voiceover that she was climbing the rock and that, you could assume that she fell. It was an accident, but you could also read it as she went to the place that doomed her and her college. And also she felt bad about what she had done and she dies by suicide. Well,
because right before we get the voiceover, we get this great shot of Appleyard. Mm-hmm. She's in her funeral garb.
Yes, but Trace, how does she know to be wearing that?
Well,
unless she killed the girl.
Well, but see, that would presume that this takes place right after they find the body, and I didn't take it that way. But maybe I have to look at it again to see. I thought there was maybe a time gap here. But
okay, Weir doesn't give us any kind of transition, so this is like the conversation about dreams that don't really become signified as dreams. So if there is a time lapse, it is not communicated by the film.
But yeah, correct. But in this, so she's just looking at the camera. I'm not going to call it a breaking of the fourth wall, but
she's
also
staring it down.
But the ticking clock stops. So it's almost like the power of the rock has expanded. Oh, it's like Annihilation with Area X or whatever, like where it's like, oh, it keeps expanding out and out and out, and things keep happening.
Oh my God, how did we not reference Annihilation until this point? Because, that's a great comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a much more obvious sort of literal embodiment. We actually see the effect of Area X on screen, whereas here it's oral. It's the way characters react.
Yeah, actually, so that's what I'm going to say. This is just Annihilation. These girls got taken into some fucking DNA swapping thingamajig, and they're there forever.
In some ways, a little bit alien, right?
Yeah. Or I guess, you know what? If the face, they're now a face in the rocks.
Oh, God, that's horrible. Ooh, I don't like that at all.
Yep.
But yeah, so we hold on this image, and we get voiceover that confirms that, yes, Mrs. Appleard died climbing the rock. We also learned that people continued to search for the girls for years, but nothing was ever discovered, and their disappearance remains a mystery.
Womp womp.
And that is how the film ends, because if you wanted closure, if you wanted answers, you came to the wrong fucking place.
Okay, Joe, so I teased this at the beginning of the episode, but there was an 18th final chapter that was written for this book that was ultimately cut out. But this chapter did resolve some things, basically.
Okay, you tantalized me. Explain.
Yes. Okay. So basically, like, according to Lindsay's editor, Sandra Forbes, like, she had this, and she was the one that suggested, no, you should probably take that out. And I think that's tying back into the whole, like, yeah, it's a good marketing gimmick thing. Like, let's solve it. Make people talk about it. But basically, this is what we got. So the chapter opens with Edith fleeing back to the picnic area while Miranda, Irma, and Marianne push on. So it's basically a flashback to the time when they disappeared.
Ooh, it's going to explain too much, isn't it?
Well, so, okay. Each girl begins to experience dizziness and feel as if she is being pulled from the inside out.
Ooh.
A woman suddenly appears climbing the rock in her underwear, shouting through, and then faints. Now, this woman is not referred to by any name, but based on, like, kind of the description, it's like, oh, this is clearly Mrs. McCraw. Like, this is what's happening to her.
Yeah.
Miranda loosens the woman's corset to help revive her, and afterwards the girls remove their own corsets and throw them off the cliff. The recovered woman points out that the corsets appear to hover in midair as if stuck in time, and that they cast no shadows.
Okay.
She and the girls continue together, and the girls then encounter what is described as a hole in space, by which they physically enter a crack in the rock following a lizard. The unnamed woman disappears into the rock. Marianne follows her, then Miranda. But when Irma's turn comes, a balanced boulder, the titular hanging rock, slowly tilts and blocks the way. So the chapter ends with Irma tearing and beating at the gritty rock face on the boulder with her bare hands.
Okay, yeah, that definitely gives it not just a supernatural bent, but an almost cosmic bent.
Exactly, and that's something we've kind of debated here in this episode, you know, with references to things like Annihilation or the Horror in the High Desert series. But yeah, I ultimately think it does give an explanation, but I think while it is satisfying in the sense that it provides a resolution, I do think, yeah, as much as I've kind of complained about the lack of energy or forward momentum in some of this story, like it's also kind of like, I don't know, the mystery is kind of part of the whole thing's appeal for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, as you said, that does offer a certain amount of resolution, but I think I'm envisioning that on the screen, and I don't think it would have been as satisfying, and I think it actually would have hurt the picture. I can imagine it very clearly in the book as a kind of capper, but on film, I don't know that it would have worked.
Well, especially with 70s effects, right? Like, this would have been some weird kind of like animation drawing superimposition. Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, I think it's probably a wise decision to cut this out because, I mean, honestly, if it was kept in, would we still be talking about it as much today?
Or would it just be like, oh, the film is really good? Until that ending.
Well, that's also a possibility. But anyway, so yeah, that's that. So I'll finish that quote that Peter Weir gave earlier, but I'll start it again. So he says, You know, I was always bothered by the idea that it was like lesbians or something.
Like lesbians or something.
You know, it's so boring. It wasn't that. It wasn't truthful. Kids at school who are in that pubescent period in early adolescence do get crushes on people of the same sex. It was in Jones's book, too. weird. That's
lesbianism. So it's canonical?
Yeah.
Peter.
So I had an understanding of this kind of energy that would come from young girls locked up at that age in the middle of nowhere. And yes, you could call it a kind of sexual energy too. It's part of it. But I would call it really rather life itself held back, which to some degree is school anyway. You don't really start living until you leave, but it was part of the story, no question of it. But as I say, more linked to a communal aspect of that. This peculiar energy, which became peculiar because of its interaction with the disappearance and all sorts of strange electrical things were running around the townspeople, the schoolgirls, and the teachers. That's it.
No.
I know.
Peter, like, that is boring. Like, why would you close the readings off to that degree? Why wouldn't you yes and say it could be both? I was really surprised because I was like, you just said that there is lesbianism involved, but maybe it's that he doesn't like that people boil it down to just lesbianism, but I'm like, I don't think people do that either. Yeah. No. I mean, if anything, this movie absolutely denies easy categorization or finite lines. But I think to dismiss the fact that there is absolutely sexual repression and queer desire, and that feeds into the romanticism, the isolation, the coming of age, like, to me, that makes this a richer stew.
I thought so too. So to hear, because I heard him say this is on the features of the Criterion Blu-ray.
Right.
I was just kind of like, oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah. I would love it if it was like a pop-up video kind of thing where there was a little link that comes up when he says that, and it's like, read a dozen queer essays on this movie. Yeah. Link here.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing, but I just thought that was really weird. But overall, I like this movie. I can't say I'm going to watch it again anytime soon. I do. I appreciate the vibe. Even if I don't find the film particularly entertaining, which I don't even know if entertaining is what it's meant to be, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely much more of an art film, and I think we can appreciate its beauty and how it doesn't want to offer up easy answers and that kind of, no, you can do some of this heavy lifting yourself. Like, I find that the film is one that lingers with you. You'll come back to key imagery. You know, you'll think about the soundtrack and the way that they shot the rocks or the veiled girls and so on. And I think it's really evocative in that way. But I agree with you. You know, I'm not going to pop on this movie for shits and giggles unless I want to look at something innately beautiful. But this is something where I'm happy to revisit it every couple of years because I can then truly appreciate what it's doing. But this is not a Saturday night with friends on the couch kind of movie.
Unless you're a lesbian.
Well, maybe it's your jam. I don't know. We found a lot of queerness in this movie. Like, I remember, there's definitely, you know, some unrequited yearning and so on. But like, looking at it very critically from a queer perspective, I think this movie is pretty fucking gay.
Yeah, I do too. But I think any movie with repression, I feel like that's also a pretty...
Yeah.
Not to say it's not, but like it's a go-to kind of read, which I think there's a reason for that. So by all means.
Any kind of situation where people are at a boarding school and there's uniforms and we're doing late night conversations, it's just naturally gonna skew that way.
And again, it's an all-girls school. So you're telling me there's not a lesbian in this bunch?
100%. It's impossible. There's got to be at least one.
Yeah, even if we're going by the 10% rule, cool. If there's 10 girls, one of them's a lesbian. There you go. Mm-hmm. But anyway. Okay, everyone. Well, that is Picnic at Hanging Rock. And before we announce what we're covering next week, some quick housekeeping. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, please join our Horror Queers Discord. The link is in the show notes. If you have a moment, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you want even more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/horrorqueers. If you subscribe today, you'll get 407 hours of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 2, Episodes 7 and 8, Lurker, Together, Weapons, and a brand new audio commentary on Red Eye for its 20th anniversary. And we can officially announce, or we have announced, that we'll be dropping new episodes on our requel tier. So we started this back in April with episodic recaps of Season 2 of The Last of Us, and now we're going to be doing the same thing for Alien Earth. Episodic coverage. If you want to hear us go through this show episode by episode, week to week, sign up for that requel tier on Patreon.
Yeah, it literally starts this week, folks. So the show is already dropping. So we're going to start covering it in just a couple of days.
There you go. Listen to that shit. And Joe, It's not Mother's Day next week, but what are we covering?
So here's the thing. We obviously could have covered this for an anniversary or, yes, Mother's Day, but it is also coming up on Labor Day, and I need to squeeze in a last couple of days of wearing white. Because we are talking about John Waters' Serial Mom.
That is genius programming. I didn't even think about that. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so excited to watch Serial Mom again. Such a good, I think also, if anyone's seen a John Waters movie, this is the one they are most likely to have seen. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Well, until Labor Day, I'll be wearing my white when we record. We can cross out Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Indeed. And cross out horror queers.
Are you sick of the same old superheroes fighting to save the world yet again? What if there was a superhero who fought for things you actually need, like health insurance and job security? That superhero is a radioactive janitor named the Toxic Avenger, and he needs you to show the fuck up on August 29th exclusively in theaters. Buy tickets now at toxicavenger.com/podcast because a better superhero is possible.